Welcome back to the Flight Simulator First Officer channel. Today we're out here in the cockpit of the Just Flight BAE 146 to demonstrate how FSFO can help you, the pilot in command, fly this very sophisticated aircraft. Before we get started with the demonstration, just a couple of quick disclaimers. The first is I just made some significant changes to FSFO and haven't had an opportunity to test them yet. So we may run into some bugs along the way. If we do, just rest assured that they'll be fixed prior to release. Hopefully, those of you that know me by now know bugs get squashed pretty quickly within FSFO. Also, FSFO is under constant active development. Just a quick look at the changelog here kind of gives you an idea just how frequent the updates are. So this, if you're new, or if excuse me, if you've been around the channel for a while and you watch one of the first videos, you'll notice how significantly FSFO has changed over the course of 6 months, and that's just because of the constant update. So you can expect FSFO to continue to be added features based on what users want. The second disclaimer is that FSFO, because of all those new features, it's gotten to be a pretty robust program. So a full tutorial on how to use FSFO is a little beyond the scope of this particular video, but I do plan on doing one of those in the very, very near future. It would just take multiple hours to do so within the confines of this video. So we're going to focus just on how FSFO interacts and can be used with the Just Flight BAE 146. Okay, with the disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing you want to do is connect FSFO to Microsoft Flight Simulator. You do not want to connect FSFO to the simulator until you are in the cockpit. As you can see, I am in the cockpit, so we are good to go there. There are two methods to connect FSFO to your simulator. There is an automated mode right here, which is Auto Connect. You do not want, again, launch FSFO if you're using Auto Connect until you're in the cockpit. So I'm using manual mode. To connect, just go ahead and click on this red button. FSFO will run some internal checks, and then when it's ready, it will tell you Copilot's ready as well as provide you with some relevant information. The second thing you want to check is just to make sure that the correct profile is loaded. You can see the BAE 146 is, so we are good to go. FSFO detected this aircraft. If you see default down here, FSFO will not work as designed as the correct profile is not loaded. If you do own a license for the FSFO BAE 146, you can just come up here, go to load aircraft, click on BAE 146, and that will force the detection. Still though, please let me know anytime it doesn't automatically connect so I can make the appropriate changes. All right, so now that we've connected, now that we have the correct profile loaded, let's go ahead and ensure the performance data is set. As you can see, it's pre-populated. It's pre-populated because I'm using an option to download SimBrief Flight Plan. So what that does is when FSFO first starts, it will look to see if you have an active SimBrief Flight Plan, and if you do, it will download it. There are two other options to go ahead and input the performance data. The second is just to type in the ICAO codes here, and then here, and then you click Calculate Flight Plan, and then you can enter everything else in manually. The second option is just simply to import a .pln file extension, which you can download from either SimBrief, or if you're still using PFPX, FSFO will accept those flight plans as well. I, again, though, am using the SimBrief option because it's just easier. A few of these you'll notice are not populated. That's because we will have to wait on some of this information either from our pre-flight departure, such as initial altitude. We don't know our initial altitude just yet. That's assigned by ATC. We do know we're not using a SID. We are, but it's a vector. It's Bangor 4 departure. So it's a vector departure, which means ATC is going to give us the heading as we take off. So I'm going to select no there because I know that's what it is. I know I'm going to use flaps 18. Bangor has a almost 2-mile long runway, so there is no need to use flaps 24. Takeoff, this is irrelevant for the BAE 146. It does not do anything. Fuel weight looks good. Zero fuel weight looks good. The temperature, okay, I'll explain this now. The reason why this is relevant is although the BAE 146 does not have an auto throttle system, it does have a thrust mode system which kind of modulates the engine power to retain a certain speed. And that's all predicated on the values that you entered. You see here I have 87. So during the pre-flight flow, you'll get an opportunity to see the Copilot go ahead and configure the TMS for you. And he's going to enter 87 in there. That is based on an advanced setting that I'll show you real quickly right here. Excuse me. I guess Captain Enter Performance Data. I have that set to 0. So that means the first officer is going to enter that performance data. If I had that set to 1, I would be responsible for entering the thrust mode system. So if you don't enter a value here and you have the captain enter performance data set to 0, FSFO will enter a default value of 85 there. But I'm going to set 87. The other two boxes I want you to pay attention to is if you prefer to use the pack simulation or the cargo simulation options within FSFO, which I'll demonstrate soon, make sure that this value here is more than 2, or if you're flying a cargo flight, this value is it has something more than the appropriate weight, whatever the cargo weight is. That's what FSFO will use to simulate its packs and its cargo simulations. So everything looks good here. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go ahead and enable autoflow. So what autoflow is it tells the Copilot to perform certain actions at certain segments of the flight. For example, once I turn this on, you're going to see the Copilot immediately start his pre-flight flow. Or not immediately, I'm sorry. There'll be a 30-second countdown, and that's based on this right here. So why 30 seconds? Well, for me, 30 seconds, since I usually have the auto connect option on, when I launch FSFO, it auto connects, and then if you have auto flow on, it will immediately start to do the pre-flight flow. I have the 30-second delay because that gives me just enough time to check the performance data downloaded accurately from SimBrief. So that's why I have the 30-second delay. You can input whatever you feel is appropriate. So the second is the before start flow that will be automatically engage when all the doors are shut. The after start flow is initiated when all the engines are running and stable. The after landing flow is initiated once the aircraft falls below this designated mile per hour here. So I have that set to 25 for me. So once the aircraft hits 24 miles per hour, the Copilot will go ahead and execute his after landing flow. And then the shutdown flow is automatically initiated when you get to the gate and you enter and you set the parking brake. So that is auto flow, and I'm going to turn that on. And there's the 30-second countdown. Once the Copilot gets in onto the flight deck, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to greet the captain, and then he's going to get right to his safety check. Safety checks are basically making sure the landing gear is down, making sure the throttles are closed, the flaps are up, the parking brake is set, the windshield wipers are off. That's his safety check. And then he's going to go right into turning on the batteries and then running some quick checks to make sure the batteries have enough voltage. So here we come. The first thing he's going to do is do the safety check. And again, if anything was not set correctly in the safety, he would do so now.
Good afternoon, Captain.
All right. And then once the safety check is completed, you're going to see him go ahead and flip on the battery switches and then manipulate the voltage switch just to check the power. There's battery 1 and 2 is on. And now here he goes manipulating that voltage switch just to make sure the DC power is good. And it looks good. So once that's off, the battery looks good. He's going to ask you, the pilot, to go ahead and connect the GPU so he can establish ground power. Now, the reason why he's establishing ground power is another configurable option, which is set right here. You see we have startup power source. We have that set to GPU. If you wanted your Copilot to go ahead and skip the GPU, go ahead and you can set that to APU, but we're using GPU today. Another option I wanted to just bring to your attention real quickly is once we do establish power, you're going to see the Copilot perform a series of tests. All of these right here. So that's predicated on this no power equals system test. So essentially when the Copilot got into the flight deck, he noticed it was in a cold and dark state. So he's going to assume this is the first flight of the day and thus perform those system tests, which we'll see here very, very shortly. So at this stage, all you have to do as the pilot is go ahead and connect the ground power. And what will happen now is You can hear the truck in the background maneuvering in position to go ahead and establish ground power. And once it's established up here, the Copilot just went ahead and hit the switch to go ahead and put the aircraft on the ground power. So now the Copilot is up manipulating the light switches up here, making sure all the lights are configured correctly before moving down to the packs. And then he's going to come over here and he's going to run all this series of tests to include engine overspeed test, among other things. Right now he's running the master warning system test to make sure all the lights are illuminating and make sure that the aircraft is able to detect problems. Now, earlier we talked about a pack simulation. That is what's going on right here. You can see that in 15 seconds, the passengers are going to start boarding, and you're going to hear a sound in the background, ambient passenger noise. And again, that is also a configurable option right here, play boarding and loading sound. So there we go. The passengers are now loading. There's the fire test. Again, this series of tests is all predicated on this being the first flight of the day. So while the Copilot is doing that, what you could do is you could normally wait for your passengers to load. This simulates that passenger, but you could also choose to go ahead and skip it all just to make sure that they board quickly. And what you can do is, if it's initiated, is just click this passenger sign again, and that will go ahead and expedite the boarding process. So you click yes, and you'll see this number count down quickly. Okay. And now we know all the passengers are on board. Now again,
Captain, all passengers have boarded. I'll bring the manifest to the cockpit once we get everyone seated.
Okay, so now we have the passengers are aboard. You can see there's a 87% passenger satisfaction rate. This rate is predicated on how you fly. If you enter into a certain bank angle too steep, or have a bad landing, or fly the aircraft unsafely, you'll see that passengers will be impacted by this. They're also impacted by services, like if you feed them or choose not to feed them, that results in a satisfaction rate too. You can also look or request a passenger satisfaction report, and what this will do is this will keep a log of every time this number down here changes. So if it goes up or down, you'll be able to look right there and you'll be able to decipher, well, why did it change? Okay, so that's part of the passengers simulation. There's a lot more that we just won't get to in this video. Just know that FSFO does have a passenger simulation that's going to be built out much more
heading out for the walk around
into the future. In fact, after this update, that's what I'm going to concentrate on, to provide a passenger in airline operations simulation as part of FSFO, and it will be free. Okay, so now the Copilot is out on his walk around, and this is an opportunity for you, the pilot in command, to do the one thing that you have to do, and that's configure the FMS. Now, in other aircraft, FSFO has the ability to do this for you, but in the BAE 146, I chose not to do that, just simply because it's not a very robust FMS, and honestly, you would be clicking the same amount of buttons whether I automated this or had the pilot do it. So this is literally all you have to do in this aircraft. And by the way, it does have SimBrief integration too, so you can simply download it from SimBrief. I'm going to put my origin and my destination ICOAs. And then I'm going to go ahead and enter my departure and my departure SID and my arrival star. I think I just put the wrong one right, but that's okay. And that's it. That is literally all you have to do for the BAE 146 to program the FMS. You do have to clear out the discontinuities here. Again, this works very similar to the Airbuses, is you can't clear out any discontinuity after a vector. They're there by design just to remind the pilots that, hey, it's going to be a vector after that waypoint. So that is it. The FMS is configured. I'm going to pretend I got my pre-flight clearance, and then I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to just enter an initial altitude of 8,000. I'm going to sit as still no because we want a heading departure, and everything else looks right. So except I'm going to change this to runway 33. So there we go. That looks good. I'm going to do a quick check of the weather. Weather looks like a beautiful day at both places. Again, they're only separated by 200 miles, so that's good. And then I'm just going to do a quick check at the airport data. Oh, excuse me, that's the aircraft data. I wanted the airport information just to make sure I got the right runways, the right ILS frequencies, get a look at the runway length. So we are good to go there. Go back to where we are. So now to expedite things, I'm going to go ahead and hold Control Alt, and that's going to terminate the Copilot's walk around. What he's going to do, and then he's going to come back in and complete the rest of his pre-flight flow.
Aircraft looks good.
Okay, now he's up again on the main panel. And there's the set thrust mode. I'm going to go ahead and get us configured so we can see the Copilot. There he goes. He's testing this system now just to make sure it works. Then after that, he should go ahead and input the whatever the outside temperature is. You just saw that. It's in the 14. And then you remember we had 87 set, so he just set everything perfectly. So now he's going to come up here to the autopilot and make sure he just turned on both your flight directors. And then he's setting the heading bug over here. And then after the heading bug, he should move up to do the initial altitude. But so far, so good. It does take a little bit to set the heading. You can see it's coming around. It'll be on 3.3. And then what he'll do is he'll come up here and he'll set this to 8,000. And then there is something else I do want to bring to your attention. You could see this right here, this RNAV reference indicator. Since you have an active flight plan that we just loaded into the FMS and it's good, the Copilot is going to go ahead and switch this to RNAV. This allows the BAE 146 to fly what's in the FMS as opposed to any BORs are tuned into the RNAV radios. So you should see him flip this up once he's done completing the initial altitude for the 8,000. And there it goes. It just got flipped up. He's now turning on your radios again, and then he's going to set your altimeter, which he just did, and set the transponder down here to standby. So there it is. The app you just watched the Copilot literally configure this aircraft from a cold and dark state. One thing to note is, yes, you just saw the Copilot configure it all by himself, but there are multiple options within FSFO to take the load off the Copilot and put it onto you. FSFO is all about flexibility. To do as little or as much as you want as the pilot while still retaining a level of realism. So there we go. With the pre-flight flow out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and do the pre-flight checklist, and I'm going to do this via button mode. So what is button mode? Anytime the voice speech recognition is not enabled, you're in button mode. So button mode is simply, you can click the button or you can click the action button to go ahead and start the pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Parking brake.
Set.
Hydraulic pump.
Off.
Fuel panel.
Set.
Pressurization.
Auto.
Ice protection.
On.
Exterior lights.
Set.
Air conditioning panel.
Set.
Fuel 16334 pounds.
Checked.
FMS.
Completed.
Briefing.
Completed.
Checklist complete.
So there you go. You just saw the pre-flight checklist. Now, if any of those systems were not configured correctly and we'll demonstrate this on the before start flow. The Copilot would wait patiently for you to set the system correctly before moving to the next checklist. You also saw some checklist items that were in blue. For fuel, this has no internal value check. The Copilot's not going to look for a system. It's going to call it, and in this case, read out the number. And in this case, briefing. It can't check whether or not the briefing is done or not. So it just moves to the next item. If it's white, it does have an internal value that must be set correctly before proceeding to the next item. And we're going to demonstrate that here in a little bit. Now, you recall I said that since auto flow is enabled, the before start flow should start when all the doors are shut. So I'm going to close the forward packs here, and you should see the before start flow automatically initiate. A couple of things to note on the BAE 146. So you don't have any interference with the FSFO. I recommend removing some of the options like pilot callouts. FSFO will take care of the 80 knots, the V1s, the V2s, such and such. So I'd get rid of that. I'd also get rid of the cabin ambient sounds. Again, FSFO has those within it, just so you don't get any clashes. And obviously the Copilots, you can have the animated Copilot if you choose. I choose not to. So the big ones to shut off are pilot callouts, cabin announcements, and then the omniots. Now, if you want to use the BAE 146 cabin announcements, vice FSFO, you can certainly do that. But you would just come in here and you would turn off FSFO's cabin crew announcements, just so you don't have any conflict between the two. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and close this and close the front door, and then we should see the before start flow. Okay, so now the Copilot is, you just saw him flip the switch to start the APU. The BAE 146 needs power from the APU to go ahead and start its engines. So the Copilot's now just waiting for the APU engine to spool, and then when it gets to the appropriate setting, it will go ahead and transfer power, from the GPU to the APU. So you can see also, this is a good time. You see these things listed here in magenta. These are things that you as the pilot has to do. One is check FMS data, which we just did. The other is set V speeds. So on the BAE 148, that's easy to do, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. So the AC pump just went on. The Copilot's now ensuring that the packs are off, and the fuel pumps are now coming on. Engine anti-ice is coming on, and then you'll see him set the seatbelt sign too, right here, that just went on. He just went ahead and removed the chocks, and as I said here, in the BAE 146 to set the V speeds, all you have to do is click this right here, and you can see the V speeds were just set. You can see we have the V speed set at 135 and 141. That's already set within your performance data. And that is what you hear. That is FSFO. That is its cabin crew announcements. So with the cabin crews out of the way, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use voice to perform the before start checklist. And all you have to do is go ahead and click on the microphone, and that activates it. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Beacon light.
On.
Packs.
Off.
Anti-ice.
On.
Takeoff speeds. V1, 135. VR, 135. V2, 141. Checked. Passenger signs.
On.
Checklist complete.
There it goes. We just used voice to go ahead and execute the before start checklist. Voice can also be used to set the flaps. So you can say flaps 24 or flaps 18. For example, flaps 18. Flaps up. There's a whole list of commands that FSFO can do. It can even control the autopilot. So you can say, flight level 280, and it will set the flight level or the heading. So fully voice automated. Okay, so now what I want to do is kind of demonstrate button mode. and what happens when a system is not configured correctly. Okay. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I'm sorry. I was clicking the wrong button. So let me go ahead and reinitiate the before start checklist, and you'll see what happens, or what should happen when the Copilot detects the beacon light not set.
Before start checklist. Beacon light. On. Packs. Off. Anti-ice. On. Takeoff speeds. V1, 135. VR, 135. V2, 141. Set. Passenger signs. On. Checklist complete.
Okay, do you remember we said the bug? Now the Copilot should not have proceeded to the next item. So he did with the beacon light was on. So that's a bug. We'll get that worked out and move from and figure out why that happened. So we'll find a better place to demonstrate that. But what should happen? In fact, let's try it again. But let's try it with the
Before start
passenger.
checklist. Beacon light. On. Packs. Off. Anti-ice. On. Takeoff speeds. V1, 135. VR, 135. V2, 141. Set. Passenger signs.
Okay, so this is what should have happened here. See, the Copilot is waiting now for you to flip the passenger sign on. I probably have the wrong value set, so I made a note of that, and I'll make sure it...
Passenger signs.
And he's going to repeat that based on configuration option checklist for plea. I have it set to 10 seconds. If you don't want him to repeat it, just set to 0.
Passenger signs.
So what you can do is just kind of set that to on.
Checklist complete.
And then he would go to the next item. So you'll have to excuse me. I'm just making a note to make sure I check the beacon light before releasing. Okay, so that is, we are now configured and ready for pushback and engine start. I am going to use FSFO to do this, and I'm going to use button control. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to use voice to do this. Ground from cockpit.
Go ahead.
Ready for pushback.
Connecting tug. I'll let you know when the pin is inserted.
And again, you could just as easily use this via buttons, and I'll show you them once this is completed. We're just waiting for the tug now to get in place and put the pin into the wheel so you can control the steering.
Steering inserted. Release parking brake.
Parking brake off. There's the parking brake.
Starting push. Cleared to start engines.
Okay, now that we've been cleared to do so, here we go. I'm going to do this via voice. Start engines. And now the Copilot's going to go ahead and start our engines for us. Nose right.
Nose right.
Engine 4 cutout.
Here, engine 4 is cut out.
Starting engine 3.
Parking brake off. Somehow the parking brake got reset. I thought we were moving a little slow there. And you can see the Copilot now is just working through the engines. Parking brake off. Something keeps triggering my
Engine 3 cutout.
parking brake to go on. There
Starting
we go.
engine 2.
I'll have to figure that out too. So second bug right there. Parking brake is going on when the engines are starting. So I will get that fixed as well. There's 2 bugs. Nose straight.
Nose straight.
Stop pushback.
Stopping pushback. Set parking brakes.
Parking brake on.
Starting engine 1.
Tow bar disconnected. See you on the left side with the pin. Have a great flight.
We'll look for you on the left side with the pin. Thank you.
Okay, and there's the pushback is completed. I'm going to go back to button mode. And we're just waiting now for engine 1 to come alive. You can see 3 and 4 are started. 3 is continuing the spool.
Engine 1 cut out.
Engine 1 is has just fired as well. So now we'll just wait for about 45 seconds and all the engines should stabilize. And again, since we're in auto mode, we should see the after start flow should kick immediately. So not too bad thus far, just two bugs, fairly easy ones to fix. So, in fact, I just fixed the beacon light one while we were recording this. So, literally, you flip a 1 from a 0, that's all it was. I had it at a 0, should have been a 1. Got a lot of programming.
All engines stable.
Okay, there's the engine stabilized. You wait about 5 seconds, and then the after start flow should kick in, and there it goes. Okay, just figuring the electrical panel now. Then it's going to come down with the air supply. It's going to put the packs on. You can see the packs are going on right there. Putting the brake fan on, hydraulic panel, making sure all the hydraulics are set. Hydraulics are further up on the panel. So there's all of our hydraulic pressure coming up now. Now he's coming down to the thrust mode panel. He turned that on. That's all set. Putting the taxi light on, and he just checked the configuration. So we just checked the takeoff configuration. He did that by clicking this button right here. So we know we're cleared for takeoff. We're good for takeoff. So now we can run the taxi checklist, and we'll do this one by a button.
Taxi checklist. Engine start switches.
Off.
Anti-ice.
Set.
Generators.
On.
Hydraulic pump.
On.
Ice protection.
Set.
APU.
As required.
Packs.
On.
Flight controls.
And then for the flight controls, he's just looking for you to move just follow the instructions down here. So full left, full right, up and down.
Full left. Full right. Full back. Full forward.
Checked.
Transponder.
Set.
Doors.
Closed and locked.
Ground equipment.
Clear.
Checklist complete.
Okay, and there's the checklist. So I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of taxi out, and we'll just talk about a few more things before we close out this video. I think this gives a pretty good demonstration of FSFO and Just Flight. Okay, there's our load sheet we just got. So a couple of things. You notice the autopilot is completely set, and we have the heading is armed as well as the altitude select is armed. The reason why the Copilot went
From the
ahead...
cockpit, this is your first officer. Just want to take a moment to welcome you aboard and thank you for flying with us today. Our taxi to the runway should be pretty uneventful, and we're anticipating an on-time departure. Just sit back, relax, and we'll have you in the air shortly.
Okay, so as we said here, you can see the heading is armed. The reason why the heading is armed is because if you recall during the performance, I selected no to a SID. If I would have said yes to the SID, then the Copilot, instead of arming, oh, excuse me, I got a little bit crazy there. Instead of arming the heading button, he would have armed the LNAV button, or LNAV. Again, another feature with the FSFO is it has a fully functional RAS, our Runway Advisory and Alert System.
On taxiway, on taxiway.
So there you go. It will advise you if you're trying to take off and you're on a taxiway. And you can see our passenger satisfaction just went down. We'll check why that is. So let's run our PAX report. And it looks like too much taxi time. Or the passengers, while I've been talking, have been sitting on the aircraft for too long. So we're taxiing out now to runway 33.
Watch the ground speed.
And set flight level 280. And you can see here the Copilot again demonstration of how the speech recognition works. And you can do that with heading, you can do it with speed. There's a whole list of voice commands that are available. So the taxi time, I'm going to adjust that too. That was seemed too quick to me, so we'll get that taken care of. So that's $3.
Altitude 28000.
So there we go. Let's
Watch the ground speed.
So another thing I kind of want you to take notice, you see down here,
Approaching runway 33.
There's Roz. You notice down here I've activated speech, but when I click a button, you see that turn black. So when I'm holding on to this button, the speech recognition is suspended. This is important, so if you fly on BATSM and you communicate with controllers, you can configure a push-to-talk button that will suspend speech while the button is depressed. So you could say set flight level 290, and Copilot, it won't do anything. So that's to prevent misinterpreting of voice commands while the button while speech recognition is engaged. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Cabin.
Notified.
Flaps.
Set.
Trim.
Set.
Checklist complete.
And then you're just going to go ahead and turn
Flight
on your
attendants
landing
prepared
lights.
for takeoff.
And then make sure your thrust mode system is turned on, and it is. So we are configured for takeoff. Okay, let's get centered up
on runway 33.
Let's get centered up on the runway. There's Roz letting us know we are on the correct runway. And let's go ahead. And what we're going to do is I'm not actually going to take off. I'm going to stop, and then we're going to we're going to trick FSFO to thinking that we're at the destination airport. And then go from there, just so you can see what the after landing flow looks like.
Thrust set. Speed alive.
Checked.
.80 knots.
Checked.
V1, rotate.
Okay.
V2.
So what we're going to do is we're going to and then what we're going to do
3,000 feet remaining.
There's the Roz again, so it's a good demonstration of that. Again, that's free, just a free add-on with FSFO. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to
2,000 feet remaining.
I'm going to trick FSFO to
100
thinking
knots. 80 knots. 60 knots.
So it just thinks
Manual
now
braking.
that we're on the land. It thinks now that we've arrived at the destination airport.
Passengers, welcome to our destination airport. Please remain seated until all docking procedures are performed and cabin lights are switched on. On behalf of the captain and his crew, we would like to thank you for flying with us. We hope you enjoyed your flight today and hope to see you soon.
So there's the message, and now once the aircraft falls below 25 miles an hour, you should see it automatically start with the after landing flow, and there it goes. It's going to set the taxi lights on, which it just did up there. Put the thrust mode system, turn that off. It just did that. And then setting the flight directors off, turning the autopilot off. The spoilers will go up and the flaps will go up too. You can see they just went up there. And now the Copilot will start the APU. So again, shutdown flow will be when we get to the gate and we turn on we set the parking brake. Again, FSFO in the air has all the things that you're used to and you've seen from other videos. It will turn off the landing lights at the appropriate time. It will automatically turn on the autopilot at your designated time. You can also do it via voice. It will manipulate the flaps. It will do everything you need it to do during the landing during the flight phase. But the meat of FSFO is both in the configuration before and then after. Although the pack simulation adds quite a bit in the air too, to add some management. So that's going to be built out a lot more down the road. And as you can see a running thing, efficient taxi time. So obviously this is a bug, you can't have both. So I'll figure out what's going on with there. And then apparently they were pleased with the clean restroom. So again, if you feed the passengers, if you have a clean flight with limited turbulence, you fly the aircraft safely, you'll notice that the passenger satisfaction should reflect that. Okay, in order to save time, we're going to actually park. This is actually the guard portion of Bangor International. Normally there would be KC-135s parked here, but for today it's going to be a BAE 115. So, parking brake on. There's the parking brake, and as we said, now the shutdown flow. The taxi lights will get turned to off. The interior lights, if this was the night, it would go to on. The master warning system, and you just saw this skipped all the way down there, so that's bug number 4. We'll have to get that figured out. Setting the electrical panel, and what's going to happen now, there's the thrust levers, we're going to turn to the off position. The fasten seatbelt sign will come off. And then the transponder will come off too. So there we are. We are shut down. Let's go ahead and run the... as you can see, we're at the destination airport. So now the aircraft is deboarding. Oh, I'm sorry. I just ran that again. Let's go ahead and run our shutdown checklist.
Shutdown checklist. Parking brake.
Set.
Flaps.
Up.
Hydraulic pump.
Off.
Generators.
Off.
Throttle.
Off.
Passenger signs.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Ice protection.
Off.
Checklist complete.
Okay, there we go. We just ran the checklist, and now we're getting the post-flight report. Essentially what this is you heard the taxi speed. We did speed a little bit there, so that failed. The on-time failed. That's because I did not have the right time set in the block in, so we were going to fail that anyways, guys, because we didn't actually land at the destination airport. The passenger satisfaction 79. Again, we didn't really explore those in great detail because again, that's a little bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. But nevertheless, I think you got a pretty good understanding of what FSFO is capable of, and with the BAE 146. I've got 4 bugs to take care of before, but this should all be done within the next 15-20 minutes. None of them are incredibly difficult, so this will be available here tonight, as well as all those other fixes that were identified within the changelog. Okay, I think that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching again. Again, look for that full tutorial on how to use FSFO. I'm going to go fix these bugs, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.